Now we're only able to treat 1 in 7 of them because we simply don't have the funding. So we're actually turning away 6 out of 7 acutely malnourished women and children. We met Sadiqa. Sadiqa is a mother of 3. We met her in a health clinic, and she was so desperate. She told us, "I wish God had given me death and given my children death, because then we would be saved from the suffering of our hunger." Sadiqa couldn't breastfeed because she was too hungry and too malnourished to produce breast milk. And she knew that the only way to turn that around would be to eat and prioritize herself with whatever food the family had. She couldn't bring herself to do that because she couldn't bring herself to eat when there wasn't enough for her other daughter, her slightly older daughter, who was about 2 or 3. So the situation is desperate for people like Sadiqa, and there were many families in that same situation. We have in WFP a hotline. It's a telephone number people call. We've seen in the last few months a 60% increase in distress calls from Afghan women, and too many of them are threatening to commit suicide. And we, in fact, retrained our call operators in how to deal with suicide calls because we were getting such a high surge in them, people so desperate that they just don't know where to turn because they've been cut from WFP programs, which are now defunded. I think it's first important to say that we're in the middle of a peak of hunger now. In the first 7 months of the year, 1 in 9 have been fed by WFP. We simply have not had the money to feed more. Now, it gets worse from now on in because as of August, we have stopped completely. 14 million people in this country are acutely hungry. In 2022, we fed half the population. The economy had almost collapsed after the takeover of the country, and needs were high. Half the population needed food assistance, and we actually fed half the population. Now we're down to 10% or less. But from August now, we are feeding nobody. We're feeding no family that needs our general food assistance. We had whittled the program down, and we were only concentrating in the last few months on areas which were so desperate that we knew that if we didn't continue feeding, there was a risk of high mortality and possibly eventually famine. And we've seen famine once or twice in this country in the last few years. It's rare, but it can happen, and there is a risk of it happening. So what we're focusing on right now is trying to get as much money as we can before winter. 10 to 15%, feeding 10% to 15% of the hungry for half the winter is not acceptable. And it will lead to a massive death toll. So we must rally donors, high net worth individuals, governments, foundations. We must rally and draw attention to the fact that this is coming, because otherwise it's going to be a devastating winter.
What's the picture that we're looking at once the aid comes in?
If we get the funding? Yeah, to be honest, the poorest families going back to 3 meals a day will not be possible with that money.